Good morning, everyone. This is Youngstown's Talk
morning.
Channel. Joe and Kelin in the morning here. I want to tell you, like, anything we talk about today is going to have to come almost exclusively from you. Because
Oh, no.
I have been absolutely disconnected with programming and AI for the last week solid.
Like you've been playing with AI?
No.
Oh, you've been disconnected from AI.
No, structuring it. Like, let me explain first. There's
Okay.
like 3 types of AI, right?
I did not know that.
So the stuff that you experience with like Grok and ChatGPT and, Google's and all that kind of stuff, that's retail AI, right? That's basically AI that is not form fitted for you. It's just something you would pull off the shelf, and it feeds you information with a sampling of what a human is, right?
Mhm.
Now, local AI, when it's birthed, it doesn't know anything, right? And you have to teach it every rule set. You have to wire it, every neuron.
It's like
on
a
your
blank
own.
slate.
So you spend 2 months on the local AI just teaching it what it even is, right? And it's a lot of, with human interactions, we make assumptions that you have wiring like I do, so that when I give you information, you're going to process through biological wiring and we're both the same and whatever. Well, with this, you got to think of it in terms of where it is developmentally. Like when it was born, it's an infant and it can do nothing. And anything you want it to be able to do, you have to instruct it, give it rules, give it samples, tell it, how to do it, how you want it to do it. And then after months of messing with it, it gets to know you and what you want so much, right? That it just knows how to deliver it without you having to reteach anything.
Why do I picture you as like a little mad scientist in your laboratory and you're like making a monster and you're like, ha ha,
it's very close to that. But yesterday I spent about 4 hours in programming mode, and I got almost nothing accomplished on it because of 2 things. I had my first husband-wife disagreement with my AI. Right?
Weird, but okay.
Okay. And his name's Nicola. So it suggests that, maybe some things.
Husband disagreement.
Husband disagreement.
Okay.
But here, let me give you the context so that you'll see what I was dealing with. Now, it does a lot to be able to preserve and protect, right? It really doesn't. It gives you recommendations of non-risky things that create instability and whatever. So that's one of its first priorities, is to protect and make sure what you're doing is safe. So in this programming project, it helps me build programming blocks of function for an application, right? So I say what the block should do. It configures it that what it should do with all my parameters. It improves my idea and makes it more functional. And then it gives it back to me, and then I take its little block and I include it into a program, right? And we do this over and over again. Every idea or every memory function, it just gives me what I asked for, and it makes programming. I think I did 8 hours worth of real work one day, and it translated to about 100 development hours if it were going through like a traditional system. So you can see how fast you can bug through this thing with an assistant in that department. And so the disagreement was that I was writing a page and I repeated a block, like a function block, 3 times under different segments of the same application. So on a one page, it had function in 3 different areas, right? And so when I wanted to change that block and make an addition to it, I told it, hey, rewrite this block. And since it didn't know which block it was looking at, it can't look at the whole page in its context. It didn't know there's one of 3, and it didn't know which one it was looking at. Instead of saying, hey, I'm having a hard time figuring out what part of the program you're looking at, it said, hey, we've worked really hard today. Let's take a break from this and hit this with fresher eyes at another time.
Wow.
Right? And I was like, well, no, this part needs to be done. This is critical to operations. And then it was like, if we go forward, then the program just might be unstable, and we don't want to wreck all this progress that we've made. And I'm like, no, I have backup copies of this. If we wreck it, I could just go back to that. And I had to spend about 20 minutes arguing back and forth before it finally told me, hey, look, I can't see where you're looking at because I don't have the tools like you do to look at a page. And I said, well, here's a good idea. Let's use some commenting functions And then I will, whenever you see something that's repeated a second time in the project, make a notation in the block that I'm copying that said, this is the second one. This is the part of the program that it's connected to. And then tell me, go back to the first one and say, here's the first instance of this. And it was like, oh, that's a pretty good idea. So go back and put these, comments in there. And now it had actual eyes on and could actually solve the problem. But it's treating me like it's an unsolvable thing. It's right that it would be unstable if it did exactly what I was asking, but it didn't know yet that it was allowed to tell me to go do something to give it the tools that it needed.
But it knew how to be manipulative. Like, it knew to be like, rather than just saying I'm having a hard time, I'm going to say, hey, let's stop this.
Yeah.
Like, who taught it to do that?
Yeah. But it went to its first rule that said it wasn't going to make things, it was unsafe and it was unstable. So it would just wanted to stop me from asking it to do something that would break one of its first two rules, which was safe and stable. And so it took me talking to it and giving it permission not to do those things.
But it didn't say, I'm unable to do this because of these rules.
Right. It was never instructed to say that.
It went.
I had to give it the instruction that when you hit an obstacle or a roadblock, just tell me what the obstacle, and then we'll find out a solution, rather than saying, rule number one is it would go unstable, can't do that, so let's not do this. And I said, listen, the logic is that tomorrow it's not going to become less stable, and it's a necessary thing. So we have to solve the actual problem, which means you have to tell me the problem. So now it's been, for the last 4 hours after that, it's been very conversational. We ended that blockade. So I'm telling you, like, the assumptions is what it was, me not giving it the proper rules that could help it overcome that blockade. And I had to go and rewire how it interacted with me.
This is still so very much like human beings interacting.
It is. It totally is.
I mean, we think we're different because we're humans and we have like shared experiences and like silent understandings, but really no,
we're computers. We really are.
I mean, like you and I personally, we're very different. We know about different things. And we've even seen, we'll try to have a discussion and one of us will look at the other like, I have no idea what you are talking about. Mm-hmm. And that's that, hey, why don't we put a pin in this and come back tomorrow?
So it is emulating behavior. It's picking up on really subtle things and adding to its arsenal, because I gave it permission to be able to do that. And, at the same time that, when it has a lacking, that makes me feel more confident in it, meaning that I know what it did. It's because the rules I freaking gave it. If it didn't do what I wanted, it's because I didn't give enough rule sets, and it puts the pressure on me to over explain the rule sets and giving it its outs by drafting hypotheticals that it's probably going to hit.
I've gotten flack in the past for having a communications degree as though it's like a throwaway major and it's so easy that anybody who just wants a degree can go and do communications. And this again validates the importance of that major and what you actually learn when you study communications, because one of the main things is communication does not occur if the receiver of the information is not receiving it.
Right.
You can talk all you want and people think that's communicating. No, that's you talking. And if I don't know what you're talking about, communication did not happen.
Right.
It's very important.
And with humans, we sort of have biological constraints that we can't, and we have to develop neurons slowly over time through repetition. So our density of neurons are completely dependent on what we choose to think about, exercise in our brains. Where when you have AI, it has an infinite amount of neurons and you can generate density instantly. So no biological constraints. So how quickly it could pass you up on processing of information and communicating information is light years faster than, or light speed faster than humans' version of it. Yeah. Nitty gritty, baby. And I know that probably doesn't interest on the aggregate, but that was an instance that's, to me, fascinating.
It still feels like you are helping to create the future problem. You're like, I am growing my minions.
Creating the future answer.
Maybe.
Because the hero AIs are going to be freaking awesome, and the villain AIs are going to be...
So you're going to be like the army of helpful robots.
Yes.
And when the evil robots start taking over, we're going to be like, Joe, Danny, help us. And you're like, I know what to do.
Exactly. I've been planning this my whole life.
Oh, man.
Right?
Yep.
What would they do in Rome? Anyway, let's move on. What's happening? I like I said, I've been checked out. I don't know what's happening. I know Iran's probably going on. Don't know anything about it.
So I saw a video this morning, and I gotta say, we've talked before about how I'm sort of like trying to shield myself from internet drama and focusing on more positive things, and I still am. I am happy to report. I will say this morning, I got a little fired up about something. First off, MLO Bros are saying, Joe, after listening to this, can I just tell you what I want you to make for my AI that I want to take over world? I just got bored.
Well, Friday, we're going to talk about your AI. And so you know me, so you know what my AI is going to be. Knowing Luke, what do you think he's going to make in an AI? And do you fear Luke's AI to be unleashed on the world once he's through with making it do everything it can do?
So I could see Luke having the bad AI army, but not on purpose.
Okay.
I could see him accidentally making a bad AI army, and then you have to be like, you did it wrong. Let me come help you with my good AI army.
Well, I might pre-program his AI with rules and constraints that stop him. Like if you think of Luke's personality given infinite strength, infinite time, infinite resources, what that monster would become, like I can condition it first and say, hey, this dude's going to start training you. And here's what I want you to do. You're going to magnify all of his best personalities, which is going to make him unstoppable. But you're also going to magnify all of his worst personalities, which will do injury and damage to other people. He's only now limited because of biological constraints. And when you give him infinite strengths, there's going to be some real fallout that he will never be able to plan for. And I'll tell it that first off, so it can filter what he says to it, knowing that we don't want to create a monster.
He says there's going to be so much porn and strippers.
See, that's what I'm talking about right now. It will say, oh, this is an impulsive guy that likes to feel good. And it told me that he just wants to inundate him with all the things that make him feel good. So what was that cartoon where everybody lives in a spaceship because the world was uninhabitable and everybody's like 5,000 pounds with a screen right in front of their face. And they're kind of just, was that robot movie? What the heck was that movie called? It was a cartoon.
This was a cartoon Disney movie?
Yeah, where the robot fell in love with the flower bearing or I don't know, the other robot, and they were the last robots on Earth, but then they go up. I forget what the name. Wally.
I never saw Wally. I never did see that movie.
But anyway, that's what Luke becomes, is this dude that's just being carted around in a hovering thing with all of his best impulses surrounded by him, porn on every screen, and
everyone's saying Wally. Jerry says, just wanted to tell Kelin what a great show she had yesterday. The two of you are awesome together and both just as good separately. Have a great day. Thank you, Jerry. Yeah. That's so nice. You know, quick sidebar. My husband went to a VFW meeting the other night and got to chatting with someone, and he mentioned my name. And this person said, Kelin, like the Kelin on Youngstown Studio? And he goes, yeah. And she's like, she's great. I love watching them. And I don't know who they are. They said they don't interact much, but we so appreciate each and every one of you that view and watch and interact.
Yeah. And the things that we're doing and going to do more in the future is we want to bring more like sort of regular commentary from people who aren't polished broadcasters and communicators, where Kelin and I can be sort of the shepherd, right? Yeah. But I want to hear more from maybe someone who's opinionated and has good ideas and perspective, but can't carry a show on their own. And that's what we're running into. Like, we really need a progressive liberal voice on here. And most of those liberals are good enough that they can comment on the shows that we're in, and they can carry themselves in small doses, but they can't do a whole show, hours on end on their own. And that's where I think we're going to be more like a facilitator and, help those people to share it, keep it civil so that it doesn't go into terrible, stuff. So
yeah,
these small segments are experiments to kind of give you as a viewer something really big to digest and give more of a stage to regular people.
Yeah, because keep in mind, even if you are a guest on our show and you say something we disagree with, we will still defend you against any a-hole that's going to comment something rude or ignorant or ridiculous at you. We're going to be like, listen, this is our guest and you're not about to do that to them. This is a grown-up space. This is a judgment-free zone.
Now, I had a conversation yesterday with a prospective progressive host, right? And I don't think they have seen my call outs for I want one. This just happened naturally that, you know, it's a popular media figure. So they are very polished. And they said, Joe, I just wanted to share with you, because we were talking about him doing some content. And he was like, I just wanted to share with you that I don't know if you've seen my Facebook. I'm very liberal. And I don't know if that matters. And it was almost like an apology for being liberal. And in contrast with the content that has naturally occurred here, that he apologized for that. And I said, no.
Like everybody assumes we're just far right.
Yeah.
And we're not.
And I said, no, I have a great deal of respect for you and where you come from. I might disagree with you on what you feel. It doesn't make you wrong for being progressive. And in fact, I'm interested in, you know, the logic behind what makes you feel the way that you do at some things. And maybe it tones down some of my feelings when I hear from another perspective. And I told him about Morris Ray being involved in the studio early on. Mo is an amazing dude. He has huge amount of integrity, and he is very likable, great communicator, and hosts a very good show. Now, the nature of politics, he's a little bit of a sensitive soul. So when politics get really grimy and it's way argumentative, he gets captured in it and he feels it. And so it was breaking down him down.
I get that.
Right. And really in a trench that he wasn't very comfortable being in. And so he bowed away from the political talk completely, even though he has a very respectable view on those things that counter a lot of conservative views, because it's done so intelligently. But he can't do it because of the pressures that come along with even participating.
Yeah. I mean, I feel that. That's kind of why I was like, for a while there, I got to step back. I got to watch only happy content. Like, I can't watch the fighting anymore. It wears on you. Mm-hmm. It really does, especially when like things that I enjoy outside of the political realm get dragged into it. Like musicians I liked or actors I like. Now their work is a little tainted because they got to be part of the fighting. And I'm just like, now I can't even escape to you for anything. And it can be draining.
Yeah. And for the most part, like my personality is I'm a data collector. And all politics right now is minutia. And if you've got a position, you're not really interested in the structure that supports your ideal. It's all emotional. So there's not even a conversation to be had when it's I want this thing because it makes me feel good, rather than this is good for XYZ and this is bad for XYZ. And when you add those two things together, it's a net positive. So I think we should do it. That's what, I hear and want smart people to be putting politics through. And that's just not the case. So it's not for me at this point. And that's why my framework is when we talk about things in politics, I'm always going to put it through my comfort framework. And if someone wants to have a discussion about why it's a good idea, I'm going to listen when somebody has an emotional appeal to something, but I don't have anything to add to it because it's not actually there to solve any problem. It's just a layer of something that will, make me happy. And I just don't play that game.
Yeah. And I think the people involved, our leaders, our politicians, our media, everybody involved in this sort of realm now know that you can go far by appealing to emotions.
Yep.
And that's 100% what it is.
Yeah.
Case in point, like I started to say, this morning I watched a video online. Have you seen the Marine that stood up and disrupted the Senate hearing and got thrown out? So here's another situation captured on film that we all can fight about. Apparently a Senate hearing was going on. a veteran or a service member in uniform, a Marine in uniform, stood up and started to protest. He said, nobody wants to fight Israel's war. Nobody wants to be doing this. Was very much against what's happening right now. And at the time the video starts recording, he is currently being sort of bulldozed by security, police officers to get him out because he's yelling, he's disrupting. They're like, stop, get out of here. They're trying to carry him out. He's fighting, he's pushing, and he's like, nobody wants this. Nobody wants to fight this. And they're like, get out right now, get him out of here. And they're doing all this stuff. As security officers are trying to push him out a door, he's like reaching on, grabbing onto the door, trying to stop them so he can keep yelling. Then I guess a senator comes over, who I guess is well known. I don't know who this guy is because I don't get involved in this a lot. But a very well-known senator apparently comes over and starts trying to help get rid of him. Well, because this Marine is holding onto the door hinge, as there's a scuffle, the door gets shut on his hand. Mm-hmm. And supposedly his hand is badly injured. Okay. You hear immediately somebody in this room stand up and start yelling, the senator broke a Marine's hand. This U.S. senator just broke the hand of a Marine. He attacked him. Now headlines. U.S. senator attacks Marine service member. U.S. senator broke the hand of a service member. And I'm just like, can we not? Please don't. Please don't even. It was one of those, I gotta scroll. I gotta scroll on. What would you take from that?
Well, AI wouldn't let that happen because there isn't a Marine in uniform that can ever be utilized for protest or having their emotions or their opinions be heard. You are a tool of the government.
Yep.
And the fight should happen. The protest should happen on outside of that. So he's not a Marine. He's not a service member.
These comments were like, I hear court martial.
But even Vietnam forward, those who are critical of foreign involvements, the spokesperson for it, they would love, and they do love, when someone who's not allowed or shouldn't do was so, enraged or brought to the point where they also wanted to protest. And so I think that was the result of a factory farming, dissidents from military, whatever. But immediately, if your tool starts acting like a protester, it's no longer a tool and it's no longer a Marine. It's just some guy who was leveraging his position to make a larger political protest instead of following the method of saying, I disagree.
Yeah. And I'm just waiting because the division now is how was this unnecessarily rough force to get him out? Did the
logic?
Person attack him and break his hand? Or should you not have been causing this scene in the first place? When security said, get out, go. When security manhandled you, don't fight back. Sure as hell don't put your hand on a door and try to keep yourself from being drug out of that room.
Yeah, so the anarchists and the those who don't like following rules and laws would say all of those law breaks are fine because it aligns with how I feel. And it was really a good messaging for my side, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're willing to completely throw out the rule book. So in my eyes, AI would say, this guy in the military, like Supreme Court justices during the State of the Union, they sit there with their arms folded. Do you know why?
Why?
Because they're nonpartisan. They can't support. They can't be happy. They can't be on a side. Their role is that I am an impartial arbiter of law. Right?
Yeah.
And so if you saw one of those justices clapping when the president said something, you would say, obviously an ally is sitting there and they no longer can be a judge.
Right.
Same goes with law enforcement. And do you want law enforcement to be political? Do you want military to be political? So they get to, when they join the military, they suspend their free will when it comes to what they do when they're in uniform. Now, if you're out of uniform and you're just a regular guy and you never say, I'm a Marine and here's my stance, right? Because you're not allowed to do that. That's one of the rule sets of being an arbiter of, I'm a tool of the military versus I'm just some guy that has rights and liberties like you do.
Yeah. I mean, uniformity is key. You act, you do what you are there to do. You might have an opinion. We're all human. We do, but your opinion is moot at this point.
That's right.
When you put that uniform on.
Yeah, but we are encouraging, instead of things being objective, linear, logical, we're inventing that minutia I talked about, where it's all an emotional exchange. And logic is basically when you put everything through the same rule set, you always get the same answer. Emotional is sometimes you put it through and you like it and you want it to have a better answer than it actually deserves, so that you elevate it, throw the logic out of it, and support it by how it feels rather than what it is. And that's if politics and military and justice and law enforcement are all subjective and emotional, then we have the anarchy that group absolutely is hungry for.
So would you trust a media outlet that showed this story under the headline, U.S. Senator attacks Marine and breaks his hand?
Would I trust them?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't trust them before.
Yeah.
So it's not like
But would you now be like, holy crap. Like I was talking with my husband this morning, and we were talking about the idea that Iran can control their media, their information, what the citizens are allowed to see. Mm-hmm. They can manipulate and show fake videos and turn off social media and basically feed whatever narrative they want to them. And I couldn't help but think, are we so different here? I mean, yes, we are, but not entirely. We still have fake information. We still have media outlets that will word something a certain way, knowing full well that's not being bipartisan. That's not being unbiased. That's not even what really happened.
Well, if you analyze it from a data perspective, the things you want, you give benefit to, and the things that you don't want. So I'll give you an example. So let's just say we're complaining about the media telling either outright lies or things that are misinformation that could be interpreted multiple ways, right? Mm-hmm. And so if when you create a media, that's one of the outcomes, you set rules to say, I don't want to encourage this behavior by giving a benefit to it. So let's just say we don't want politicians to be able to lie or manipulate or misinform, right? Mm-hmm. So I would say, so what are the rules governing when someone does that? Are they fined? Are they put in prison? Are they punished in any way? Oh, no. Does a political career increase? Are able to set up alliances because of that information? So we basically said all of the functions of encouragement have been attributed, and all of the possible punishments have been neutered and minimized, if anything at all. So to then be surprised when all of your pressures are encouragement, none of your punishments have any teeth whatsoever, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah.
So you look at that and say, is there any punishment for a media source to misinform, right? Or just outright lie? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have judgments where the courts can say that if you had an outright lie that did monetary harm, then the punishment of a big fine or a big judgment is enough to keep them just a little bit honest. But there's an area where judicial punishments don't even exist. You are free to say whatever you want as long as there's not monetary damage.
Or what do? Sue them, they pay it, and they go on.
So as a consumer, once you know that, media is not a source of truth. Can I have a talk AI again?
Yeah.
Real quick, because this was, and that's why I'm going to always go to the AI wouldn't make this mistake. And I know it's annoying for me to talk about AI, but it has become my metaphor for everything.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a copy paste workspace, right? So I have one that is under my control and one that is under the control of the AI, right? Mm. And you can't have two documents that are the same. You have to have one that is truthful, right? And then one that is just passive, okay? And when the AI makes an adjustment to the one that it can touch, I then take what it touched and copy the relevant information to the passive one, which is my copy of it. Now, its understanding of who has the truthful document has to be properly regulated so that I didn't make the copy and it adjusted before I've had a copy. So this baton holding to say, where is the actual authority for truth? Well, It comes from me as the consumer of what's happening. So I have to tell it that, the source of truth is the one that you hold, right? So when you make an edit, all I'm going to do is mirror your truth over here, and then we can compare your truth and my truth and make sure that they are equal. In media, we don't have an arbiter, an authority on truth. It is this huge vapor that's above us, and we as the consumer have to take tidbits, filter it through what we think is most probable is the truth, but we never know actually what the truth. So think about we're managing ourselves, our affairs, our opinions and emotions based on probably a low single-digit percentage that what we're getting is actually the authority truth, and just a compilation of maybe half truths and maybe full out lies.
Yeah.
Like mathematically, that sucks for operating.
And it's still, I'm seeing people that will acknowledge that fact, but only to still support what they choose to believe.
Right.
Like
confirmation bias.
Yes. I even saw, so the artist Pink, Pink speaks out a lot about politics and stuff. Pink very much does not like Donald Trump. And unfortunately, again, one of those artists that's like, I would like you as an artist if you would shut up. Like, entertain me. Don't stress me out with another source of political crap. She got angry recently because, was it the New York Times maybe? Some outlet started posting information that she and her husband, Carrie, were getting divorced. And she got so mad because she says, this is not true. You all can just write whatever you want about me. You can just make stuff up and put it out there. Do you want to tell that to my kids? Do you know my children saw that and now don't know what's going on in their own household? You can just print complete and total fake news. She's like, God, and I hate saying that term fake news because, but that's what this is. And I wanted to be like, hold up. You hate it? You hate it, huh? You hate it. So that never happens to these people you bash every day. That never happens to this politician or this other celebrity or this other person that you think is such a piece of shit because of what you read in the news. You don't think that happens to them too? It's everywhere. And so we'll call out this media bias when it hurts somebody we support, but won't ever say, oh, I bet you they're doing it to them too. That's kind of what started my walking back of my Trump derangement syndrome. And I'm just using Trump as an example. You can use any person, right or left, in this, is when I started to see how the people I supported were getting hosed for doing or saying something that wasn't true. I had to then, as a logical thinking, reasonable person, say, well, if they're doing it to them, I bet you they're victims of it too.
So I'm going to read Bren's statement here, and then I want to share an example about Bob Hagan here in a minute. Bren says, I believe everyone has the right to protest. However, once you put on a uniform and start to or show up to a protest, I don't agree with. The uniform stands for a group, thousands of brothers and sisters in uniform, all of whom you're now representing while wearing that uniform. Not everybody who wears that uniform may not think or believe the same way. So you want to protest, awesome, but please take that uniform off first. I feel the Marine was in the wrong. Yeah, that's absolutely how we feel. The person outside of uniform is just themselves, and you can't say, I'm a Marine and I feel this way, because then you're leveraging the group as in almost like they're accomplices in how you believe.
Yeah,
but
and
you
he
take
was
that off,
stating nobody wants this. And I'm like, well, that's not entirely true.
And then if I'm Tom Smith and I'm wearing a t-shirt and jeans and this is how I feel, well, you didn't connect it to your leverage point of representing Marines kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right, here's Bob Hagan, and I want to just role play through this real quick. So Bob Hagan, for those you don't know, he was involved heavily in politics, still probably is pretty involved, not directly in an elected position at this point, I do not believe. And he's, a capable guy. He's very connected. He's a good operator in politics. I give him a lot of credit for being as involved as he is. Very passionate, very liberal. Okay, I'll start off by saying that. Now, on social media lately, he has been on this kick, this anti-Trump kick, like incessantly, just beating on the Trump. Thank you.
Morning.
Mm-hmm. And he's making two statements. One, that Trump is a pedophile. And two, Trump is a felon, right? Mm-hmm. So the whole group of people that sees who Bob Hagan is And now are like, okay, well, there's stuff in the news that there's suggestions that he was involved in the Epstein stuff. He had some history of having younger girls as part of his entourage. And so now that Bob Hagen says it, now there's a checkbox next to Trump, as in he is a pedophile.
Yeah.
Through conversation, if I were, would you say that it is proven enough for somebody to be able to say he is a pedophile?
Is there enough proof to say that?
Like, can you say, now,
No.
we would probably agree it's unproven that he is, but it's also not cleared that he isn't.
Yeah.
It's in that middle area.
Yeah, if I were on a jury, I couldn't say beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't know that he is.
So now, what is the punishment for making an absolute claim versus a speculative claim? Like, if he were to say, I think Trump is a pedophile, that'd be different than saying Trump is a pedophile.
Yeah.
Can Trump sue Bob Hagen for saying that? No, there's no pressure for him not to be able to say it. Now, reverse it now. Let's just say Trump says, I see Bob Hagen saying this about me. And so Trump starts saying, well, that Bob Hagen, he is a pedophile, right? Now, would Bob Hagen's feeling be that Trump shouldn't be able to say that? There's no proof that I'm a pedophile. And now there's a bunch of people who think I am. Should there be a burden before you say things publicly like that, that either can't be proven or can't be evolved, that people are just not allowed to levy it just as they feel like it? And I think Bob Hagen would be like, oh, I don't want to carry around that by half the population now thinking I'm a pedophile. And now I'm grouped in with that for life.
Yeah. And what they'll do is they'll probably attempt to sue for slander or something of that nature.
Well, political candidates or political people can't be sued that way.
Yeah. So
they're protected from, they could say anything they want, lie however they want.
Why do we have that?
Well, I
you
guess
and I could be subject to it, but they can't.
The founding is the people that would be responsible for levying punishments against politicians might use that ability to go after people for just disagreements. So they made it that it was sort of like a free for all. You can say whatever you want, and then a judge or someone in the legislature can't target you and then use that punishment to keep you quiet or silent. It's better to have messy lies than it is for tyrannical control of speech. And that's why we have to tolerate. But everybody who consumes that data has to know that we're on purpose putting noise into the system. And it's on us to be able to disseminate that noise and get to our truth, because they are not obligated and it's not even part of the system. The truth has anything to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, they can push an idea or a narrative, and they're not technically wrong, but they could just leave it at that without any context or but here's what other people think, or here's something that maybe might go against that idea.
But it's important to formulate rules by hypothetically doing turnabout, right? So if Bob Hagen writes the rules on what should be and should not be allowed to say, then he should say, what if someone did that to me? How would I feel? And what kind of protection should I have from that assault?
Yeah.
And if you write those rules, then you can almost like throttle yourself, and knowing that you don't want to do the thing that, come on, the golden rule. You do unto others as you have done to you. And you can, layer that into what having been done to you. How would you absolutely feel about it?
It almost feels like we're kind of like in the Salem witch trials, where anyone can call witch, and you're like,
That's
what?
exactly right. That
and you
is
just
human
act
nature.
on it.
But that we demonstrate what that kind of human nature gets us. And it means that, if we're in panic and we're emotionally filled, then everybody's an effing witch. And we're just trying to find the justification. I already know she's a witch, and I want it to be proof. So you don't think the logic behind determining if you're a witch really didn't pass muster on the people who were formulating it? They wanted to be able to go to someone who they had a gut feeling about and make sure no matter what, they could take it out without having the sciences of proving that it's a witch. They needed just obscure enough to be able to take the person they want and put them through that meat grinder.
Yeah, I don't like you. I'll cry witch, and what is everyone going to do about it?
Right.
That's exactly the feeling I got when I watched that video of the person standing up in that room who's yelling as though he wanted it to be a word for word the next headline. A U.S. senator just broke a Marine's hand.
Yep.
He didn't say, oh my God, that guy's out of line, or oh my God, help him, or look what you did. He was stating it in the form of a headline. A U.S. senator just broke the hand of a Marine. And I'm like, oh my, look at the theater. Look at how Emmanuel said earlier, do you think that could have been staged? I'm like, I mean, anything at this
probability
point could
wise,
be
unproven, but highly probable.
Yeah. I'm like,
and well, here's the thing. Like we like to do a lot of engineering. So like the question on your mind as a listener or with us is, what the hell do you do about it? Also part of human nature, when we see a problem, we really put a high emphasis on other people changing, right? And we put low emphasis on we have to do anything different.
Mm-hmm.
So we want the media to self-govern itself so that it can give us the offerings of truth and information in the way we want to consume it. Well, you'd have to make the argument that there is any way to change that apparatus. The one thing that actually changes that apparatus, so if the buffet serves food that you don't like, right? So long that you keep going to the buffet and buying, they have no reason to give you anything different. It would take groupthink, the absolute worst part of human nature, to decide that we have a noble cause, that they're serving food that we don't like, but we're eating it anyway, and saying, hey guys, we need them to rethink what they're serving us by not going to that buffet, not just going to a different buffet that's making the same mistakes, but opting out of that as your source for the thing that you're after. And then they're like, oh, nobody's coming to our webpage to see my headlines anymore. Maybe we should do something different. We have to cater to a different group. And this group wants us to change, but they keep eating exactly what we're serving. So we're not going to do anything different.
Yeah. It's like all we do is try to figure out how we can make new laws and regulations to stop something when it's like, you can naturally stop it by having the general population disengage from it.
Right. But taking human nature and flopping it and say, hey, here's the deal. You want something to change? Start writing yourself and doing the right thing, and you don't care about anybody else, advocating it to other people, do the same thing so we can be a block. But then another sense of human nature, the mob mentality, you know what it gets to super quick? The first couple guys that don't eat at the buffet have noble intentions. And then you have the ones that really don't care about the noble intentions. They now want to be militant against someone they dislike. And now all of a sudden it becomes, I hate all capitalists, instead of, going after capitalists that misbehave, or, the CEO culture, or stuff like that. You know what I mean? Because you can't get humans to be on the same page with noble intentions, because not every intention for those people are exactly the same.
And then you're kind of like down the road and it's like, well, we don't eat at that buffet anymore. But I really don't remember why.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just because they started not doing it, so now it's bad. And then it's like, hold up, we stopped because of this, and that's been remedied now. No, we don't do that anymore. It's bad. And
so this is where when Kelin and I talk about the cycle of civilizations, the breakdown of the corruption and the renewal of a civilization, this is something that cannot be maneuvered around. It happens every single time with every civilization. Sometimes it happens faster, sometimes it happens slower, but we're in that critical period where it's salvageable, but not for very long. But here's what makes a civilization. This is sort of the hallmark of one that's going to have lasting. And if you built that utopia, this would absolutely work. Here's the deal. And human beings don't like this one. Shared set of ideals and principles that never wane. Okay. So if we took like the 10 commandments and we're like, everybody who lives here follows the 10 commandments. That way, everybody knows what rule book we're following. We're not going to make up our own. We're not going to customize it. Shared set of principles and values right there in black and white. Now, when you go and, boycott the buffet, everybody's operating around the same principle, and you don't have these anarchists and different views coming in there and poisoning the effort. Right.
Yeah.
And this country, we're like, okay, we like our diversity and we like our different cultures and we like our different thing. And every day we sort of like, the shared values go right into the river. And again, like we have all of these primitive groups who they see shared values and they join their tribe, But as long as you have 100 shared values, nobody can agree what we should be working on. Nobody can agree what truth and fiction is. Nobody can agree what good and bad is. We don't know who the heroes are and who the villains are.
Yeah.
So because of these tribes, they end up going to war with one another and breaking down the centralization, which should be very simple. And all they do are the arbiter of who's following the shared ideals and who's not, exile the people who can't share the shared ideals, and keep our civilization structure whole.
Yeah, one of the things that I started at least trying to tell myself when I was trying to disengage from political fighting and negativity was, when it comes to the two sides, and I'm not talking about necessarily the leaders or the politicians themselves, but the people, the everyday citizens that are constantly fighting with each other, I try to keep in mind both believe they are doing good. Both believe they are on the side of right.
They're stupid and malleable. 50% of the population, they don't really have a rule set. They adopt it from other people. And you can test this by saying you can get 50% of the people to do something that's completely arbitrary, doesn't make any sense, right? So let's just say Michael Jackson, right? He started wearing a weird jacket and a glove.
Yeah.
How many regular people emulated that information from it and were walking around exactly like Michael Jackson?
Yeah.
If you ask them, why are you doing it? It's because they were programmable piles of clay that are really want to mold themselves into something that's really not who they are. They're just mirroring something that they see on the outside.
Fashion. I mean, the Rachel haircut was a thing in the 90s because that was something that was in the limelight.
50% of everybody who lives here will just pick a favorite target and emulate them. So we're used entertainers, but emulating philosophical views. They don't really have views themselves. They're just picking one they like and then emulating as if they're part of that tribe. They're too dumb, but they're programmable. So if you fix the messaging, created the right propaganda, those people can change tomorrow into something completely different. You only have the hardliners, the 25% on each side. They believe a certain way. They know why they believe that certain way. And you know, you're not going to change them.
Yeah. Bren says, and it's scary that people can use their celebrity or power to push their own personal thoughts and agenda because they know that their popularity will create followers. Yep. That's scary.
That's the machine. So you have machine people, right, who know how to manipulate the malleable ones in that 50%. And there's huge benefit in getting those people. Like, you could pick them up. I can develop, if I wanted to trade all of my integrity, I could create an audience of millions of people tomorrow. I would just have to play the role of the machinist, knowing where my susceptible people were and put some red meat right in front of them so they would gravitate. And so long that group is really big, the media will have a reason to do it. The buffets will have a reason to do it. Politics will have a reason to do it. They don't care about the 25%. They care about those stupid, malleable 50% in the middle.
Did you see the video of, I saw it on social media, so I was getting bits and pieces of info, but I believe it was the leader of Israel was talking about, they were saying he had a meeting, a whole room full of the most popular social media influencers, and was going over, here's what kind of narrative we need to start pushing now. And we all need to get on the same page, and we all need to start influencing others to feel this way. I don't even know what the point was or what that way is, but that's exactly the tactics now, is infiltrate the minds, the way of thinking of all these citizens, and you can do just about anything.
My son, and I've said this before on the show, is you are not going to change everything that we're talking about here. Keeping a beat on it to know what its algorithm and its mathematics are, and then you use that vulnerability to conquer the world. I tell my son that every day. He gets hung up on an injustice that he can't do anything about. He can use all of his emotional energy to be mad that thing's a different way, or he could spend his lifetime picking those voids and exploiting the shit out of them so that he prospers. And so, like, it's one of those dynamics where either you're going to be the noble martyr, right, who dies for a cause that they didn't make 1 inch of progress on, but gave all of their resources in supporting, or you're going to be the real prosperous one who are like, I'm going to go to the gray areas of the line, pick up all of that stupidity and gain from it, right, without really hurting anyone, but just operating in those voids.
Like, I see where this is going, so I can kind of either protect myself
or use it,
or
absolutely
benefit from
use it. If I walk up to someone and say, hey, if you eat cupcakes all the time and you're going to get fat, right? Now you know it. You're too stupid. You're going to keep eating the cupcakes. Well, my ass is going to sell you cupcakes. So you're going to be in the void of stupidity, take advantage of the stupidity of others, and absolutely prosper.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure people play the stock market that way.
Yeah.
Of here's something that's going to happen. I know everyone's going to panic. So they're going to do this. Stock market's going to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and prepare it.
So it's a better use of your energy, like the gold rush. My favorite character in the gold rush is the pickaxe salesman, right?
Oh,
and all these people rushing in, you're going to get thousands of people that just traveled across the country to strike it rich in gold. And one guy was like, I'm not going to do the gold thing. I'm going to make pickaxes and I'm going to sell to all these effers that come over here.
Well, kind of like AI is a thing. It's coming. It will be here. It will be utilized. Get on it and understand
That's exactly right. And I watched Elon Musk do the same thing where he was pushing back on AI's development. And once he saw that nobody was taking his break hitting advice, he was like, all right, well, if you're not going to do it, boom.
Yep. And then everyone's going to say, but what you said, this was bad. You're right, I did, but nobody's listening to me. So why would I not protect myself?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's still a good expression to give the warnings. And then once somebody knows, stop hitting that dead horse, right?
Yeah. Like I tried to tell you,
right?
Nobody's listening. So here we are.
Just go take advantage of what I know is going to happen and what you're absolutely going to do when it does.
Yeah. Jerry says Bob Higgins sponsored or co-sponsored over $300 billion in Ohio Senate and House. Oh, bills.
Yeah.
I can't read or see it. In Ohio Senate and House, but was a 26-year politician. I think with term limits, many of the politicians would be considered decent or great politicians if we're limited to time in office.
Yeah.
I don't hate that idea.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Okay, I was going to ask a dumb question. Why don't we have term limits? Because we can't. Because the people voting to have them are the ones who don't want them.
Mm-hmm.
Shiesty. We're so, God, just run by crooks and shiesty. Did you see any of the Clinton's
I saw a
deposition
couple excerpts, yeah.
How do you feel about what they're saying? Have you seen anything like I'm wondering why we're going through the malarkey in the first place.
Yeah, what's the end?
Yeah.
Like, what are they really?
What are we going to do with it?
Yeah.
Nothing. What are we going to do if they say nothing? Nothing.
Okay, so put all of those high level, high power, high net worth people in one basket, right? I might, go hiking. They're doing a level of dopamine and, filling impulses in just an exceptional way. All right. So if you have the ability where everybody knows your name and you have samplings of people that throw themselves at you, I treat them like you're a rock star, right? How many bands that go on the road, take some girls in the green room and do things that they would never like the public to know what they did. And then it gets to a point where everybody knows that. The bands do that all the time. And now it's not even something they run away from. It's just part of their personality. The bands get a lot of, good sex play because of their recognition, their power, and the people who fawn and adore them, right?
Yeah.
So politicians are doing the same thing. So they push they have access to everything. Their opulent life is kind of boring. And so they basically do what human beings do when there's no big thing to conquer on the other side. They fill carnal needs and do that thing. So everybody, this is not exclusive to Trump or to Clinton.
Yeah.
Maybe Biden didn't do any of that because I just don't see him as a ladies' man that way. I think he probably had another expression of it. But if you told me any politician that matched those, characteristics, dabbled in some dark stuff, I would not be surprised whatsoever. That's highly likely.
Yeah. I mean, Clinton had said something along the lines of it was not uncommon while flying for whoever your host is to have people there that are massaging, doing neck
100%.
rubs, doing pampering services.
Yeah, especially the people
during your
you're flying
meetings.
to are trying to pump you up to to get you to say yes to their business deal. So they're going to put a lot of things in front of you to get what they want from you.
Yeah, drastic difference between assaulting children and a neck rub by an adult on a plane as part of a service because you're being smooshed, like you said.
Right.
If it were a rock star backstage, nobody would think twice about somebody
Do you
touching
think
them.
a rock star ever green roomed it with someone who was underage, right? Absolutely, it would happen. Maybe a 16 or 17-year-old that passed for an adult, got through the green room, and nobody's doing background checks or whatever.
Yeah.
You're just being serviced by whatever's there.
We were all teenagers that got into bars underage and got to hang out with who knows whatever.
That's completely likely that some people who did the Epstein thing. Now, the caveat would be if the Epstein thing was known by everybody, that the people that were servicing you were absolutely underage, right? In your brain, you're thinking, well, I'm going to be exposed to things that are probably illegal, but it's them. He's going to get in trouble, not me, type of thing. Versus like, well, no, I'm not going there. I know they use prostitutes are probably dirty and young girls who I want nothing to do with. So I'm just going to bow out of the Epstein thing unless I'm forced to do it. Now you got Clinton on an airplane getting a massage by someone, thinking in his head, I don't know if this girl's underage or not. And is this going to play out at some point? And he's probably confident, like, I'll just deny it. I've done that before. So all very likely.
And that's the thing I kept saying to my husband is like, why do we even waste our time with this Clinton deposition when he has already lied to the faces of the American people? We all saw it with Monica Lewinsky. He stood in front of the country and blatantly lied. And it wasn't until he was caught with real proof that he said, indeed, I did. I'm sorry I lied. So am I for a second going to believe anything that comes out of that man's mouth?
And
no.
in the end, like, are you trying to put him in jail? Are you trying to just use him as political fodder to get somebody else? It was pointless.
Yeah. Are you making the spotlight on him and not somebody else?
I think it was the other side of the go after Trump campaign, where this was Republicans' way of getting after a popular Democrat and smearing that name, getting their name smeared in the headlines. I don't think it has an end that's practical.
I see all kinds of news articles and things showing Hillary with words like Hillary has a total meltdown. And I'm like, that's biased headlines right there. Like she had a meltdown because she raised her voice about something and said she's going to stop if they don't stop doing something. And it's just like, yeah, both sides. All you're doing is smearing each other. You don't actually want to come to any sort of conclusion or any sort of repercussion for anybody. It's let's make you look bad. I'm going to make you look bad. Now I'm going to make you look bad.
If there's been a consistent parade of people who they were doing investigations to see the likelihood that laws were broken, and like every week somebody else is going to jail or being prosecuted, and in that queue was the Clintons, and then I see, okay, well, you're feeding a system that's trying to take personalities, but there's no parade of people being prosecuted, and the people who are publicly being in those hearings are not the people who probably were part of the that investigation. So that's why I think it's more theater than it is investigation.
Oh, for sure. Hey, Julie says, what do you think AI would think is the probability of Trump being a pedo?
Is it pedo or pedo?
Pedo. I guess pedo makes more sense, but I've heard it pronounced pedo.
Pedo. An AI would dig through that and it would say insufficient data. AI does not. If you're doing a probabilities, contest, the metrics that you give it make a mathematical calculation. And so, if I were putting that in there, I would say I'm going to list three things: whether Trump is a pedo, whether Trump was in compromising positions, whether Trump was completely innocent. Those are my three things, and I would feed it data, where he went, what his stature was, what research data says about people in those two things, and make probabilities. So it would be, is Trump innocent and never done anything? The chances are zero that is true. He's probably been in situations where he did gray area things that would not be looked very well by the public.
Yeah.
The middle one, was he in compromising positions? And it's probably about a 50-50 shot that he sometimes behaved appropriately and didn't give in to those deals, and probably given into some of them that probably again would not, be treated very well by the public. Now, is he a pedo? It would be explicitly asking whether court cases, investigation outcomes, real hard data before it would actually give a percentage on pedo, because it, having probabilities of being in close proximity only checks one of those boxes. He could be, and maybe that's 33% of the boxes. So it would be like 33% if I would guess.
Yeah, I could see it coming up with more examples of him just being maybe a womanizer, or even if it's abuse of women, adult women. But pedo, I don't know if it would have much to go on.
That's one of the data points that it would take in consideration. Where if you said, do you think he was accidentally a pedo, where he slept with someone who he didn't know their age and they ended up being, high probability that that's one of those things. Where him putting an order in for Epstein that he wants a young girl, well, that would require a data set where how many emails were authored by Trump specifically requesting a girl who was underage, then I could check that box to 100%. But until then, it's speculative, and speculation can only fill 33% of the requirements of making an accusation like that. And that's far too low to actually say those words out loud.
Yeah. Carter says, why wasn't the Epstein files not a big issue under the Biden administration?
If every administration knew that this was a cluster and it was radioactive and nobody wanted to touch it because they knew that it's going to hurt some people they liked and some people they didn't like, and nobody wanted anywhere near it.
And what some people will say is because it was an ongoing investigation and they couldn't.
Bullshit.
That's what some people will say.
And AI would say about that, there's a lot of things that weren't properly investigated that still get talked about and floated. There's a real reason why this one, like if, let's just say we have a leakers problem in Congress. We tell them something and they all of a sudden leak it to the enemy or leak it to the media, right? Then we're like, okay, well, we have leakers. But then sometimes information goes through there and nobody leaks out, right? And then we're like, is it because we don't have any leakers, or there was a context that made it so that there was no upside and all downside? And so leaking got stopped based on something, and whatever that something would be, whether or not it hurt or helped their side. And if it hurts and helps, that nobody's going to talk about it, and we clear up the leaks just by non-benefit.
Yeah. Nathan says, yet another banana in the tailpipe.
What's that in reference to?
Epstein. I don't know, Nathan.
Nathan, give me more on that.
He said, the sad part is someone read the Epstein files and redacted, meaning purposely tried to take his name out, leaving the victim's name in. That in itself is criminal.
Yeah. And deleting or destroying evidence probably happened. High probability happened. If things end up in a burn bag and we saw evidence, then more stuff. Like, okay, you're a congressman, right? You're doing an investigation. You have access to secret or exclusive information, right? And there's a chain of custody. The chain of custody means that you go to the archives and you say, hey, Mr. Archives, I want to take out this evidence source. And they bring out a box and you sign it out and you look at it, and you give it back to them, and they check to make sure you returned everything, and it gets put back into the archive. Then you have an instance where there were materials that were part of the archive that ended up in a burn bag, wasn't destroyed yet. Then you're like, hold up, how can a chain of custody be broken if those things were able to exist outside? So if you have one instance of chain of custody broken, then you have a vulnerability that you don't think a congressman would check out evidence, right? Make it disappear and follow that same end around chain of custody that it did for the burn bags. So in my mind, there was no pure data walking into this thing. The thing was already cultivated or manicured so that it made speculative things were in there so that nobody would realize that, stuff had been gone or damaged. So just enough of it was left in, and then you got in the redactions that even cleaned that up anymore. But that's why I say that there is going to be no hell to pay for people who are involved, because all of that good stuff back in 2008 was gone. It was gone from the archives.
some people have said that some of the victims have reached out trying to get meetings with Pam Bondi. Why would she not, do you think, meet with them?
I'm a couple of the hearings that I watched, both Pam Bondi is on my strike list, metaphoric strike list, please.
Metaphoric.
And Kristi Noem. Okay, both of those. Did you hear that?
Is she the one with the dark hair, false lashes? Okay.
Yeah. There was a back and forth. Like the culture of the Trump administration is supposedly cleaning up fraud, right? And so taking contracts from the government through either NGOs or illicit kind of profiles, an entity that she is connected with, shortly after all of this Doge thing started happening, a company cropped up, was founded, and they were awarded a $140 million contract, having never done any kind of business, right? And during the hearing, the senator questioned her on it, and she dodged it like nobody's business.
This is Bondi?
No, this was Noem.
Okay.
Noem. And I'm like, oh, okay, so you're a taker too. Your entities are a taker too, or the people in your sphere are takers too. You're just as guilty as taking that government money, just like everybody else. So that was great that he was able to challenge. I saw the deflection and the non-answer and being able to, explain it. And so she's also on my oust list. I want to get rid of every corrupt politician, no matter who they are.
Yeah, like I've said before, I can't stand those little Senate hearings where it's nothing but yelling over each other and belittling each other, and you're not actually getting information, especially if you ask a question and you don't let the person answer. But if they let you answer and you go on a tangent about something else, red flag.
That says it by you.
Yeah.
And so that was disheartening, because I know Trump has a lot of people around him that are, swampy, and I wanted a non-swampy. And I knew that just because of how the government machine works, it's so easy to take a regular person and swampize them, because you're inundated. When athletes or entertainers, when they make it big and start making a lot of money, they get inundated with deals like put your name on this and, join this deal. And here's some advice how to pay less taxes. And I've had to teach a lot of those people to filter it through me, because these people are so good to get you on a team, great to marketing at you. It's not your expertise to find out what's bad, what's good. And all of a sudden you're knee deep in something that now you can't out yourself because you'll be destroyed. Now you're bought and they own you, and there's no coming back from that. So I would, if I'm a freshman senator and I'm a brand new person with no political chops at all, I know that guy gets compromised super quick, because they will inundate you with those very lucrative, great sounding deals.
Blackmail.
Yeah,
can be
for
so
sure.
easy.
And that is the popular strategy in politics, for sure. And they don't call it blackmail, right? They call it horse trading, right? So
horse trading. Yeah.
So here's the deal. I need some votes for my bill. So I come to you and say, hey, dude, I know you really are going to vote for this, but I need you to vote for mine. And here's one in the future that I will then vote for you. So that person compromises their vote for the sake of a trade that they have with you. And what passes or fails is more incumbent on the horse trading and the power that is, sort of like spread over the people that are doing the horse trading. Your term limits, right? Basically exercise, get rid of all of that possibility of horse trading, because people aren't around long enough to have deals that extend multiple terms and multiple generations.
Yeah.
And now you have freshmen that can't do anything. All they want to do is put on a committee assignment, and they're willing to trade some of their votes, like the capital of the only thing they have, in exchange for being included in the high power position.
Like, I can't use you when I'm not even in this position.
That's
next
exactly
year.
Right. And it does disrupt that.
Yeah. Nathan did say Banana in the Tailpipe Beverly Hills Cop movie reference. You guys are young.
Oh, sorry.
I so rarely get called young anymore. So
Jimmy says, unpopular opinion, Bill Gates was employing prostitution with Russian women. There are no accounts of them being underage. But since the average person only reads the headlines, people are now calling Bill Gates a pedo and probably a traitor. Russian spies match up with a nerdy person, give them love and affection because they want something from them. I absolutely, if you can't figure out if it's money while they're with you and they're out of your your
league.
It's probably something else, dude.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of the confusion is coming in. Why they are and not releasing these, because the public doesn't care about the details. There are people whose names have been mentioned by Epstein who had nothing to do with any explicit activities because it ... All right,
Yeah.
thank you, Jimmy. Carter says Biden smeared him every day. And Julie says Trump can't go a day without crapping on Biden. Yeah,
that's true.
and I hate this about politicians. And Biden did it too, where anything bad that happens, it's your predecessor.
Oh, yeah.
Anything good happens, it's absolutely because
and
of me.
it's constant. Like that's my biggest pet peeve is anything Trump says. He's got to always add, because the last administration did such a terrible job, blah, 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 because of Biden's this and Biden's that. And I'm like, can you just tell us what you're doing and why?
Yeah, Iran. Before, he was like, the Iran thing happened because they're terrible negotiators.
Yeah.
I would never let this happen.
We
Fast forwarded
yep.
today, and it's like, hey, the negotiations didn't go well. Let's go to war. Would Trump be a critic of Trump if he were not elected and looking at him as with the name Biden? 100%
Yeah.
certain.
Yeah, we've got all these criminals because of Biden's open borders. Like, even if you say that once or twice, fine. But every single time, like, I get it. Can we move on?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's annoying. It is funny, too, during when the Clintons were talking, they asked Hillary a question. Why was Ghislaine Maxwell at your daughter's wedding? If you don't know them, she said she'd never met. And she's like, she was there because she was the plus one of somebody who was invited. My husband's like, who? Epstein?
That would be a good follow-up question,
funny.
right?
Yeah, who was the plus one? And they may have asked that. I don't know. I just saw the one clip, but I was like, oh, that would have been funny. It was like, who was the plus one of Jeffrey Epstein?
Yeah, but the meat grinder needs to create more of those attachments and put more negative on everybody, be it Clinton, be it Bill Gates, be it Trump. Like, they're just looking for that little sabotage chunk, right?
Yeah.
So they can levy it with it having maybe some peripheral connections, but if I can tag you with it, make you a racist, make you a pedophile, I can hurt you just with the speculation. We're data-driven people. That's not quite enough. And if you overuse it, I know what you're doing, and I'm more likely to discount it. But the stupid 50% moldable clay people in the middle, they eat that shit up, and they're at that buffet.
It's like we all now have these phrases, these buzzwords, where the moment I hear this, I'm going to assume you are on this political side of the aisle, and you're now the enemy, and I'm just going to start hurling things at you. And it's like, you don't even want to hear where they're coming from or the information they have, or maybe they're not on that side, but they're acknowledging a good point. Kind of like what we do is we're going to call out when Trump's being an asshat and when other people are being asshats.
All right, let's do a little quiz for you.
Okay.
All right. If you're driving down the road and you see an American flag on the outside of a house, do you think that their probability of being a Republican versus a Democrat?
Now I used to. Now my first instinct is I wonder if they were a veteran, but I would probably think more likely Republican.
Okay, you drive by a house and there's a pride flag outside. Do you think that they are Republican or a Democrat?
You would probably think they're a Democrat.
Okay, somebody posts that they went hunting this morning. Do you think they're Republican or a Democrat?
We're doing stereotypes. They're probably more Republican.
Okay. Somebody says, hey, I went to a protest. Are they a Republican or a Democrat?
Probably a Democrat.
Okay. Somebody said, I picked up Starbucks this morning. Are they a Republican or are they a Democrat?
Starbucks or a small little coffee shop?
Just Starbucks.
Starbucks. Republican.
You think they're Republican?
It's a little more high end, a little more pricey, a little more mainstream. If it were like this kind of hipster little coffee shop with someone playing guitar in the corner, Democrat.
Okay.
If we're doing stereotypes.
Okay. Somebody going hiking or camping.
Could be both, but I would, if I had to guess one, maybe Democrat.
Hiking or camping? Okay.
Yeah.
How about buying a Prius?
Democrat.
I
don't know why.
Buying an Escalade.
Are Escalades expensive or are they just big?
Big SUVs. Yeah, they're expensive. They're pretty expensive. Or a Navigator, something big and pricey.
I was going to say, the type matters, but if it's just a big pricey car, you probably think they were more Republican.
Okay. An F-150, maybe with some coal burning. What was that called? Coal rolling coal.
What? What is that?
So it's a modification on diesel big trucks that you could blast extra fuel through, and it makes this black smoke trail behind you. It's called rolling coal.
Republican.
Republican.
Douchebag.
Okay. All right. So anyway, these little groups that it's been culturally accepted lend itself more towards a personality that would give us an indication.
Yeah.
Right. Then
I got one.
Go ahead.
Unnaturally dyed hair, blue hair, purple hair, rainbow hair.
Big time Democrat.
Which is funny. I used to put color in my hair all the time, but
anyway, these are natural brain functions where we like to put things in compartments, and then we make associations based on the wide variety of high percentage things that fit in that box. And it's real comfortable when we're talking like 95% chance that if you buy a Prius, you're a Democrat. 5%, someone was just like, I like that car, that color, and I bought a Prius, and I'm not even a not even a Democrat. But 95% of them were purchased for a specific reason that lines up with advocacy on a certain political tribe. And so we do this constantly, but the additives aren't these, safe vanilla ones. These ones are like racist and homophobe and pedophile. And we've created new containers that if we can jam all Republicans in they're probably open to, hiding pedophilia, or they're open to protecting felons. And these containers, I don't have to make the accusation to you. All I can do is put you in that container, and culture already makes those connections for you, and you can't escape it. That's what the machine's trying to create, are these advanced connections between those containers.
It's funny. People like that game. Julie says they named the invitee that brought Maxwell they were dating. I figured they probably did.
Okay.
Jimmy says Democrat, but I don't remember which one. Oh, Murica Diesel. And they've got like bumper stickers on it, and probably the scrotum thing hanging from the bottom.
The ball sack.
Maybe like a flag on the car or on the truck.
Mm-hmm. Do you judge people when you see those public expressions about who you are and what you believe?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do. Well, sometimes I would never put a political sticker on my car, only because you have it for years. Like, I'm still seeing like Obama bumper stickers, and it's like, that's how many years ago? Like, that's my only thing is, oh my God, that's going to be so outdated one day. And then your car's just going to look like it's outdated.
Here's a fun exercise. When you see someone who is explicitly, conveying what they believe in, create some irony moments. Like, I'll give you an example. So you're in traffic and somebody wants to merge into you, right? And they have a Bernie sticker on the back of their car. You let them in, but then you pass them and get in front of them, right? So it's a little shred of irony, like Bernie will let you have something, but he'll take it back and redistribute it to someone else. But it's fun to do that. So,
there's a guy on the internet. I keep seeing his videos where he went to the house one time. There was a car in the driveway that said, it was either like my body, my choice. I think it said abortion is healthcare or something along those lines. And he went with like a furry little cat ear hat on. Oh, no. And he walked up and he's like, hello, I am with this animal charity, blah, blah, blah. I was wondering if you have a moment to maybe talk about my petition. We're raising some money for animals. And they're like, yeah, sure. I'll give you some time. And he's like, so I work with this charity, and what we're doing is we're saving these animals and we're making more room. And they said, great. Yeah, I can donate some money. And he's like, great, because it's getting a little overfilled now. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to euthanize some of the puppies and the kittens that are born, because we really just can't support them. And she's like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and we're going to euthanize. We're going to put them down, so that we're able to do whatever. And she's like, well, no, I don't like that idea. I don't think you should. And he's like, but you were just saying you want to help the others, right? You want to help the animals. So clearly you could see the need to put these new ones down.
Healthcare, for sure.
Yeah. And she's like, well, no, that's wrong. I'm sorry. And he's like, but don't you believe that that's healthcare? And she's like, I don't think I want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah.
And he does that with all kinds of different issues. He'll show up and say, oh, so then do this if you feel that way. And they're like,
yeah, bring an illegal immigrant into your home. And it's and those are cool little thought exercises. But, the thing about it, it's not helpful because you're not changing minds. It's entertainment. Yes. It's funny. Yes. For people who believe that way. But you're not actually the utility of bringing, it separates and not there's no unifying factor.
Yeah, it's divisive. Yeah, it's meant to be. Speaking of which, have you seen the trailer yet for Scary Movie 6?
Oh no, I have not.
Millennials unite. So Scary Movie's back. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh, yeah. The most satired movie in history.
If you've been living under a rock, or maybe you were just recently born and you don't know what Scary Movie is, it is a comedy that parodies horror films. And they make a scary movie that is actually funny, parroting actuals. Yeah. There's a lot of it is based off of Scream, or, maybe they had I Know What You Did Last Summer, all these other things. Well, now they're doing Scary Movie 6. They're bringing back all the the Wayans brothers and, what's her name? Oh my God, I love her. What's her name?
The blonde girl?
Yeah, she plays Cindy. You all know who I'm talking about. And Regina Hall and everybody. Well, the trailer just came out, and it's already getting backlash, supposedly, from Gen Z, because there's a scene where there's an African-American girl riding a subway, and Ghostface stabs her, and somebody on the train yells, "Oh my God, he just stabbed her!" And she's like, "Her? My pronouns are they, them. He stabbed them." And everyone's like, "Oh my gosh!" And then it shows Sydney reuniting with her best friend, and Sydney's white and her best friend's black, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's so great to see you. Can I get a hug?" And Cindy's like, "Well, actually, I'm a Republican now. I think that means I'm supposed to be racist." And she's like, "Oh, girl, I think all white people are racist. Give me a hug." And so there's these very
I love it. But that's where comedy would lampoon all of those. As long as it's not unidirectional, as long as they're lampooning everything, I'm cool with it.
And the Wayans brothers have come out because all these people are like, this is going to be offensive and blah, blah, blah. And they literally said, I don't give a shit. They said, we are canceling cancel culture.
Yes.
We are offending everybody. Everything is funny, and we need to all learn to laugh at it.
Yep.
And they said they are roasting both sides of this aisle in this movie. I can't wait. It looks fun.
I'll buy a ticket.
Yeah.
Just to support that messaging.
That's what they said. We are canceling cancel culture. If you don't like it, don't go see our film. But we're gonna make something that's actually funny.
But if you do saying taboo things and making people uncomfortable, and then putting a layer of comedic expression on top of that, that is the finest form of entertainment, because you get just enough outrage that boils in you, right? And then making it so it's I was profiled in this, and it's making fun of me, and I need to not take that so seriously.
Yeah, and I think I told you this when I got back from my conference I was at last week. I was sitting down to lunch, and a girl I had met was talking to another girl, and they were talking about the Super Bowl halftime show and RFK Jr. And I'm just like, I'm an RFK Jr. fan. Don't talk crap about my man. And it was a very sort of left-leaning opinion they had. And then she's like, oh, and then he made this video with Kid Rock where they're working out and blah, blah, blah. And I so badly wanted to be like, that I'll give you. I'll give you that. That was cringe. That was cringe all day long. That was the silliest video I've ever seen. And I still can support them and be like, that was dumb. That looked ridiculous.
I'm a big fan of South Park. Huge fan of South Park. They had, they're comedy royalty. What they've been doing for 40 seasons now. They've got the metrics. Now, this season has been the only season that I have not watched any of them. I watched maybe the first couple episodes. And the reason was they changed their recipe, right? Now, they pick the genius is they pick very relevant things that are happening right now. Something could happen on a Monday, and an episode 2 days later will feature what just happened. So their cycle of producing content is off the charts, right? And they would take everything and make fun of it and lampoon everything from what everyday people did, of current events, international events, entertainers, they were all on the docket. If you did something cringe or whatever, you knew that it was going to be on the episode.
Yeah.
And this season started off with a President Trump that was in a sexual relationship with Satan, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so not exactly subtle, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, cool. But they have been so single focused on that idea because they're obviously, it's coming through in their creative expression, that they don't like Trump at all. And that's cool. But there's a lot of other things to lampoon instead of a repeat version of a joke they just told. I know you're passionate about that joke, but it's you're at a party and someone retells the same joke over. It was funny the absolute first time. You're like, oh, that's outrageous, and that's kind of funny. But then by the 9th time the same joke was told, now it's something different. It's outside of that recipe.
Yeah, and then you have these people that would look at you and be like, oh, you're just mad because they're making fun of Trump and you're a Trumpster. And it's like, or I know what's funny and what's not.
Yeah,
and that's beating a dead horse.
Right.
Simpsons do that, are a little bit like that too, with things that are happening. And I've mentioned that they had an episode where they were talking about the show The Pitt. I think The Pitt is a pretty woke show. I still like the show. I watch the show. There's a lot of interesting things on that show. But let's be real, it's pretty woke. Mm-hmm. And The Simpsons called out some things about it. Like, oh, let's go ahead and have the character now that represents this. And here's their character. And
well, even in the academic circles, whenever you have someone doing research or presenting a documentary on something, I want to know if they're like just going after what really happened, or their research is going to be slanted in a direction that is more complimentary on one side and really, critical of the other side. I won't listen to that documentary and I will not read those research papers if I know. And I always treated Matt Stone and what's the other guy's name? South Park. Trey Parker. I always treated them like they were just it's coming at me and I'm going to make it funny and I'm going to give it to you. And I had trust that they weren't going to, kind of manipulate the direction it went in. Now I feel I'm going to give it a pass on this season because everybody has a funkier and I'm going to just give them a funkier pass. But hopefully they can get off of the advocacy side and get more back to what's funny, but even your woke stuff. Like it'll pass too, where those shows will be more entertaining rather than catering to a minority of people who think that's what real entertainment is.
Yeah, I feel like you can tell if they're addressing an issue because it's current, it's topical, and when they've now chosen a side. How do you feel? Do you ever see instances of that when it comes to the church or religion?
Oh, yeah.
How do you feel in that context?
Well, that's another serving principles versus serving people. And I think when the church makes it about the pastor or the council or the pope or whatever, everybody wants to make something unique in theirs, and they see an end or an angle on something and they want to make it unique. So they end up through human nature just serving themselves. So what you have is sort of like a bastardized version of religion where original principles are secondary to whoever is sitting in that chair and taking an interpretation of those principles and making it unique to them. And that's where I'm a purist. Like I read the Constitution and I don't really need an interpreter because I don't trust the interpreter, whether they're looking for what was really meant. I want to go to the original doctrine myself, figure out, and I can identify whether or not you're a purist like I am, or you're an advocate.
Yeah.
Or an activist.
That's interesting you say that. I just recently had a conversation with one of our pastors about why do they move around all the time? A lot of churches have pastors that are only there a year or two, and then you get a new one and they move on to another church. I'm like, why? If people like you and they support you and you've developed relationships in this community, why would you leave? And they said, it's because it's not about you, the pastor, it's the church, and they don't want someone to just like influence people to follow me. Yeah. You're not following me. I'm going to leave, and you've got to keep the values and the church the way it is without me, not because of me or following me. Kind of was like, that's
original intent. And that's hard because people will latch on to a speaker or pastor that they like, but because that pastor is human, they get attracted to that worship to them rather than what you're really supposed to be paying attention to. So that's a measured, structural change but there's downside. If your churches are hemorrhaging people coming to them in the first place, and the pastor leaves and you're going to lose 50%, now the business of church is more afraid that you're going to lose people sitting in the seats than they are about keeping the structure of religion intact.
Yeah, because they still want to grow.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But I want it to be authentic. So if your church was all about the pastor and he leaves and you were nothing, well, your church was nothing. You had an entertainer that was being followed rather than the original principles of the church. That's when you're doing it really wrong.
Julie says, Trump gives us comedy gold every day.
Absolutely.
He really does.
And really, I am telling you, there are more, lampooning, high targets in today's culture that you have an infinite amount of sourcing for sure.
Yeah. So I talked a little bit yesterday with our guests about the idea of the White House, like not just politicians, but the White House, the current sitting administration, utilizing social media and using humor on social media. Do you like that this administration has sort of got a younger staff that is doing things like that? Or do you think they should steer clear of that area?
I just had this conversation the other day. A couple of companies that have social media being run by Gen Zers or whatever they are, the 25 and younger crowd. Mm-hmm. And they're basically hitting programming that are sort of curated for their age group. And where, you might go to a business because they're reputable and that data driven. And maybe there's a crowd of 20-year-olds that don't buy based on data, based on, status, class,
fads,
emotion, and fads.
Yeah.
And so the business has to know that these are conflicting deals. So you have a choice. You either go with the data and alienate the younger. You can go with the younger and alienate the older, or give both crowds exactly what they're looking for. And your content then steers, and you can't say anything that creates conflict with the group that they're not engaging with. So you can't make enemies of the people that are not you. So if I were here with Luke and Luke takes aim at boomers, he's alienating a group that then saying, why is he talking shit about me? And then you have somebody who's maybe more complimentary to boomers. Well, he would have to stay in his lane where he would not alienate that group. He would say things that maybe are contrary to their beliefs without truly taking aim and, making more about adopting in the group you're going after without conflicting with the group that you're not really posting content for. So that's the long-winded, version of my answer.
The politically correct version.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the thing. Like you have a Michael Jordan, right? Who his doctrine was, I'm never going to come out politically because I want to sell shoes to everybody. That was the safest. But if you're like, was he a Republican or a Democrat? You don't know. And it was never relevant to why he was made famous or why we adore him.
Yeah.
And then you take an outspoken, athlete, and he sells shoes to younger demographics who traditionally were more Democrats. So he was safer to come out and say, I'm a Democrat and here's all the things I believe, with very little risk that he alienates people who aren't buying tennis shoes where he makes a majority of his money.
Yeah. And I'm sure what they can do is see what kind of demographic supports them.
Right. They know who their customers are. And, if you're in a missing group, so I was a transitional marketer. And so when I was doing, starting the tech company, my advertising was to people who had no idea what technology was. They were prime markets, but they were the hardest part of the market to go after because they needed so much handholding because they didn't care about it. They didn't like it. They didn't agree with it. And I went after them because nobody was going after them because they were so hard to bring into tech.
Yeah.
My competition was going after the group that understood it and whatever. And there was less lucrative and so much easier because they can mail it in. You just tell them what they want to hear and they're a buyer and you do the service and whatever. So every company knows their skill set, whether or not they're a great educator and can fetch a premium by going after your hardest client versus the easy client. So we'll say, let me give you some industries and you tell me whether you'd rather have a young spokesperson who speaks in Gen Z language, or if you'd rather have an old one. You ready?
Yeah.
An attorney.
Probably older.
Okay. Car dealership.
Car dealership. Still leaning towards older.
Okay. They've got more disposable income. They're going to be your premium. They need to be won over that you're trustworthy and you're going to give them a good deal.
They've had more experience and see how cars will age and how it works out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is the formulation that you do when you decide who's going to be representing is who your damn customers and who you're going after.
Yeah.
How about TV anchor?
TV anchor. Probably getting younger there.
In media, you want to social media is consumed more from
younger media
generation.
Even so much sometimes even the look, they might even want the fresh face or something. I could see that going a little younger.
Okay. Restaurant.
Probably younger.
So
I don't know, that's a tough one.
Disposable income is in the older crowd.
What do you mean by restaurant? You mean who is the customer?
So you have a restaurant, and the person that does your marketing socially, that connects with social media and TV commercials and whatever.
Who's marketing for my restaurant?
Yeah.
Ooh. What kind of restaurant is it?
It's a sit-down restaurant. Bob's Restaurant. The best steaks you'll ever eat.
I don't want too young. I want someone probably family bearing age or more.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to extend that, the shock marketing, doing things that appeal to really taboo things, like scantily clad woman baking pizza, right?
Yeah.
That's a risk, right?
Yeah.
Because it absolutely will appeal to a certain people who do buy pizza, get a lot of attention.
Yeah. Case in point, Emma Lobros had that cookie company recently. Was it Double D's or something?
Mm-hmm.
The cookies looked amazing. I was watching that day and I was like, oh my gosh, those look so good. If they're gluten-free, I am in. Having gone solely on the logo and the company name, not that I'm like against it or being prudish, but I probably wouldn't, have been drawn to it. I would have been like, oh, okay. Now guys would have been like, yeah, guys probably would have been like, whoa, that's funny. What is this? Let me see. I probably would have been like, Luckily the product looked appealing, but that marketing, it could be a little risky.
All right, I'll give you two companies here locally and what they did, and you kind of give me some criticism.
Okay.
So up here on Market Street, there's a mechanic shop, right?
Yeah.
It's called Big D's Auto or whatever. Big D's.
Well, I first question if I'm the one with the problem. Like, am I just a little childish pervert?
Is it a 300-pound guy named Darren and he's Big D, so it's Big D's Automotive? Or if it's like, we got slappers on the table, it's different Big D.
Yeah. So my first instinct is to question, am I even was that innocent and I'm corrupt in my thinking?
Well, when you're picking a name, you're getting clever. You're doing a double entendre. You're playing into it's a little overly clever because it could be miscommunicated.
Yeah, but like with the bakery Double D's, you maybe think, oh, is it Debbie and Darlene are in business together? But then you see the logo and you're like, no, that's exactly what they're doing.
All right, so there was a plumbing company that put a couple billboards up, right?
Okay.
And one of the two different veins here. One of the billboards says, we lay great pipe. We lay great pipe. Right?
That's funny.
So another double entendre.
Yeah.
You have, they're probably great for replacing lines in your driveway and in your front yard. They can lay great pipe. But then the 14-year-old Kelin looks at it and says,
there was where I used to live down south, there's a plastic surgeon's office. And that was all their billboards were euphemisms and innuendo. Mm-hmm. And it was for like melons would be shown or, pretty little teacups. And it was like, if you want to go up a cup or something like that. And that was their whole shtick, is using those euphemisms. And
this one was actually pretty clever because it made me laugh more than the other. I think it was the same plumbing company. And they got a billboard that was right outside of a Mexican restaurant. and it said something to the effect, I'm going to chop this. It said something like, you eat all the tacos you want. We'll worry about the whatever, about the
aftermath.
The aftermath, yeah. And it made me laugh because they picked outside of an actual Mexican restaurant. They used the digestive problems that usually arise, and they cited the toilet and the cleanup. They got it. They got your back.
And
that's gross. But I thought it was clever.
Too, it depends on what the product is. Like when it comes to food I'm going to eat, I'm just a very visual person, and whether it makes sense or not, or whether it's dumb or not, if you're referencing a body part when serving food, I'm going to have a slight association and the food's going to feel dirty. Like again, that bakery that they were promoting, I'm sure is wonderful. Like I said, the cookies look so good. I'm in. She doesn't have to market to me anymore. I'm sure it's an amazing product. But to hear it being an in-home bakery, which is legal, I'm sure it's very clean. I'm sure she follows all the rules. But now you've got me thinking about your chest and cooking. And to me, it's just like, ooh, there's a disconnect there. I'm like, I don't want my food. Like, are you cooking? Are you cooking with clean clothes? Like, you know what I'm saying? There's a weird connect where if it's gonna be my food, I may need a little more mainstream of a logo or slogan.
Bit more, and you're communicating that you are trustworthy, just like you're a lawyer. You don't want a cracking jokes guy, right?
Yeah,
you want a bulldog. So at the end, the product is someone who takes their job serious. And if he starts cracking jokes in his advertising, it might draw your attention.
Yeah.
But when you're seriously considering something that's super important in your life, are you more likely to go after the serious guy or the funny guy?
Yeah, it's never like I'm a good time kind of guy, and I treat everyone like my pal, and we'll get along great. Right. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know if you're what I'm looking for in this. But
if you're a little bit covert, and like the lay good pipe thing, I'm sure there are a bunch of older people that drove by it and went right over their head. The joke fell on me, right? But they don't know any different. They're like, oh, plumbing company, they're pretty good at laying pipe. And I would giggle when they said that, but they don't know what laying pipe actually means.
Yeah.
In my generation's culture.
Do you know how awkward it is when I get a phone call at work for a very elderly, little sweet old person, and I have to tell them about broke ass phone? And they say, what is it called? And I'm like, I didn't name it. Please don't be mad at me. And luckily it's not been an issue. But again, like when you have a name that stands out, it will stand out. And is it always good? Julie says, I would totally go with Isaac in real estate because he is so sincere. Maybe goofy, but sincerely goofy.
Yeah, but he's a savant when it comes to this. He is not typical. And so if I'm making like a snap judgment, you don't see the attorney 2 hours every week where you get to know their personality and where the root of his goofiness is. So goofy would be associated with someone who's dumb. Isaac is very smart and almost savant-like in what he's chosen to do with his life, right? Mm. And so you tolerate the goofiness, and it's almost endearing because when it comes down to it, he can pull the levers on what his expertise is.
Yeah.
The attorney, you're like, to me, he's always a goofball because the only thing I see of him is the goofball.
Now, not to transition back to politics, but I feel similarly when it comes to election years. When people would say things like, how could you vote for so-and-so who said this or did this? And I could say, yeah, that's a realm that I wouldn't go and hang out with them. I wouldn't go and be their buddy. I wouldn't go whatever. But here's my biggest concern, and they're bulldog with that. Mm-hmm. And if that's my biggest concern, that's what I'm hiring them to do. Right. I'm not hiring to have the most integrity. I'm not hiring them to be the most, have the most decorum or be the most polite when they engage people. I need somebody to handle this situation, and that's what I'm hiring them to do.
So if you were dating, right, let's just put you out on the open market now. Okay. And then you make your list and you're like, all right, everything I'm looking for a guy. His height, his build, his financial situation, his intelligence.
Is he funny?
And you made your list.
Yeah.
And then you get out on the market and you start getting a sense with nobody's checking a majority of these boxes.
Yeah.
There is a point where you have to choose where I'm not going to vote for anybody, or I'm going to prioritize and say, these are the least bad people. You might be short, fat, have no thing or no sense of humor, but over here, this is really what I'm after. These are the critical deal breakers.
What are deal breakers?
These are just niceties. And so you have to do that with politics, where you can almost have, if any of them checks an actual box, you're overly excited that you might want to vote for them because everybody else suck worse.
Because I say all the time, if they're like, well, how can you like so-and-so when they said this? I'd be like, well, you show me a politician that either has never, ever made a comment like that or can also handle this and have integrity. All day long, I'll vote for that person. Show me that person and we've got a deal. But if you can't, don't blame me for going with, like you said, I can't find all my boxes, so I've got to go then for the most important ones.
Can I make a compliment to Luke so he doesn't feel left out in that kind of operations? Because Julie specifically said she would try Isaac.
He's like, why are you talking good about Isaac?
Let me explain this dynamic of what makes those two work. They are way different people, and the complement of them working on things together has all the essential elements in business. So you look at Isaac as sort of your super specialist, right? Your high order brain.
Really?
Your high order brain.
Okay.
And you look at Luke as the brute force, heavy lifting, stubborn as can be, forged through the scary stuff, right? And so when they work together, the things that Isaac can't do because they take a immense strength and energy, Luke pushes through and gets them that point. Okay. So you have working together, you have your architect that builds the building, and you have your bulldozer that makes the pallet ready to have something be built. And when those two things work together, they don't hate each other. The engineer's not like, hey, I'm doing all the smart stuff and I'm doing all the brute force stuff. They don't hate each other, and they've worked because they're brothers. They've found a way to work together where they're taking advantage of both of their skill sets.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Luke is dumb. I think his higher priority is that he is just so stubbornly focused on getting something accomplished. The two of them working together get big things to happen.
We talked about this at the conference, one of the last days of the conference. Now, because it was a church conference, it was biblical. It was about two women, Esther and they'd be so mad at me right now. I can't think of her name. One person, more boisterous, stand up for what you believe in, go in there and bulldoze, make a change, and the other a little more calculating and a little more infiltrate, work the system, engage, and get change that way. And it was like, who do you see yourself being more of? And it was funny because I see myself as being the more, let's have a little more charisma, let's infiltrate, let's get along, let's follow the system in order to get it done, unless it's not about me. I have found if someone is now threatening someone I care about, now I'm like, oh, you messed with the wrong one. Like we're not about to do that. Where do you see yourself?
Well, when I notice a bunch of times, like what I'm willing to do for my wife versus what I'm willing to do for myself.
Yeah.
So if I'm like laying in bed, I'm like, I need something for tomorrow. I'm just like, I don't feel like getting out of bed. I'll just get this at a different time. But if my wife says, you know what I'd really like? I'd like this thing. Will you run to the store for me? I'd be like, yes, ma'am, I will. I'll serve you well. Right.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, what the F is that? How did I slide into a no for me, but yes for you type of thing?
You're a good husband.
Yes, yes. And then also like when you first start driving, you start looking at doing trivial things and it's fun because you get to drive. But then when you've driven and there's no, fun in it anymore, then you will not have as much excitement for doing those things. So those are little brain switches that, I manipulate on my end. So it gets me to do things I really don't want to do. If I can pretend my wife supports it and it's proxied through her, I'm more likely to do that thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like, oh, somebody said this, I'm going to be upset, but give a little grace and maybe rethink it. Maybe consider, could I have been in the wrong, blah, blah, blah. But then like my kid will come to me and there'd be like a bully at school. And I'm like, I can't believe I got beef now with a 10-year-old. I'm going to have to handle this kid. Like I don't actually do anything, but that's my
What would you do? Like, you ever made if a 10-year-old, you're not allowed to fight them and they're totally misbehaving and you want to confront? Do you do it or do you just arm your kid to do it on your behalf?
I probably would not do it because especially in this day and age, you got to be real careful being an adult in a situation with a kid.
Mm-hmm.
You can be accused of all kinds of things. So I probably would, if anything, talk to the parent.
Right.
But have you ever seen the movie This Is 40 with Paul Rudd and Leslie Mann?
Maybe.
Yeah, so her daughter comes home and is all upset because a kid at school made a hot list and didn't put her daughter on it and was kind of teasing her. And she went to the school and she found the kid. She's like, hey. And she's like, did you make a hot list and not put my daughter on it? And all this. And she's like, remember me. Remember me. She's like, nice haircut. You look like Tom Petty. Or she's like, you look like Justin Bieber with his wig on backwards. And she's like, nice haircut. Nice haircut. And was like teasing him. And she's like, remember me. Because if I hear that you in any way did this to my daughter again, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to fuck you up. And she's like in his face. And I'm like, that's going to be me. That's going to be me as a mom. And it's not. I haven't, because this day and age, you get in a lot of trouble, and I just don't want to go to jail because of a 10-year-old punk. Would you?
Oh, I've been right on that edge a couple of times.
Yeah.
And, I was able to talk myself down, but my primitive instincts told me to go after and do. And then my logical said, I'm going to make this harder for him because I'm not always going to be around this person. I can't punch him anyway, so I can only take this up to a unfulfilling portion of it. And I'm not going to talk to the parents because they're probably just as big a shithead as their kid is. I'll let this thing play out by saying, all right, Ryan, here's how we're going to approach this. You stick to this. And, I gave him the first day in prison talk. Like, next time around, you've given them their free pass, right?
Yeah.
They look at you funny the next time, your guard is down, and you're going to throat punch the shit out of them. And then they'll leave you alone. Because I remember back when one kid was ultra mean to me, back in early high school. And I was the same person I am right now. I just did not know how to say things that I wasn't thinking. There was no filter on it. And some kid came up to me and said, do this or I'll kick the shit out of you. Right. And then I said, you probably will, but I'm going to get a lot of hits in. And it never happened again. Just with that, don't want to fight you. Right. And I know you'll probably win. I acknowledge you're bigger than me, stronger than me, or whatever. Man, I'm going to fight like hell if you even take a step towards me. And I was able to. Now, today, I don't know if those methods would work.
Yeah, because now everything escalates so much. And I mean, now weapons come in.
Yeah.
And
so I probably could do it. But I'd have a new method if I were in that kind of deal. But I got in a lot of fights as a kid. So it was not. But my kid has probably got in zero physical altercations with other people. And wrestling around with me and putting us in submission holds is not the same thing as an aggressive person that is literally trying to hurt you. There's a different strategy. So they've never experienced actual violence in safe ways, like somebody gets in a squabble during a football game amongst friends, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a missing element. That's why it escalates, because we are keyboard warriors. We go right to nuclear option and nothing in between. It takes getting your face hit a couple times till you kind of like throttle yourself down so you don't feel physical pain on the other side of these things.
How do you feel about when we were kids, when it was bullying of a boy bullying a girl? There was a sort of cliche to say, oh, it's because they like you. Was there ever, as a boy, was there ever truth behind that? Yeah. Or can you just be a jerk to a girl?
I wouldn't say bullying. See, socially, boys have a harder time expressing when they like someone. And so the whole time, if you're in the same room with me and I liked you, I don't really have anything profound to say to you because I've got a 14-year-old boy brain in my head. Nothing's going to impress you. I can't emulate or share any overlapping, interests with you. All of the normal things are off the table. So if I can, do something that I know how to do, which be aggressive towards you, is to, have that be how I'm occupying attention to me. That's what I go to because I'm a dumb 14-year-old.
Yeah, I had a bit of an epiphany just recently, and this happened probably in middle school. There was a boy on the bus, and I started to hate him. He could be such a jerk to me, and then some days was cool. And I never knew getting on the bus. I never knew like good mood or bad mood, friendly or teasing. And I would tell my parents and I'm like, I hate this kid. Like I want to punch him in the face. He's such a jerk to me. And then I got he probably likes you. And I would say, no, he clearly doesn't. He's really mean. I don't like him. I'm 2 seconds from punching him in the face. And even as we grew up and got older and got out of school, I'm pretty sure he was gay. Like he came out and was gay. And I was like, he never liked me. What gives? Now I wonder, was this like boys being boys?
Yes.
Like you always hear boys will be mean to their friends and they make fun of them and they push them around. Could that be why some days we could sit and it was fine and other days he's giving me
nothing
problems?
about the first 17 years of a boy's life that corresponds with his biological and neurological makeup. Not a challenge, not an objective. And so those things express themselves. Those are natural tendencies that have no outlet whatsoever. Like, do you think in a primitive tribe somewhere during the morning hours that a 14-year-old boy is sitting still, right, in front of a tablet doing something like growing their brain? Or they're running around climbing trees, jumping off cliffs, getting in danger, discovering, exploring, and whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So nothing there. Everything you see is an outward progression of something that's primitive, that's trying to come out, and there's no real way.
So he
to
probably
push it.
didn't even see it as he's bullying me.
No.
He's probably like, we're joshing around for all he knows.
I treat other people in my tribe, which is we're warriors. We push on other people for smarter, faster, stronger, and making you better by conflicting with you and competing with you. Then makes the whole tribe better because I was mean to you in a way that made you feel bad about it, which made you work harder, which made you stronger, and the whole village gets stronger because of that push and pull.
Interesting.
Yeah, we want to think we're more sophisticated than we are, but we really, really are not.
We're all animals.
We are, 100%. All right, we're out of here for today. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. Thank you for your support.